Please take note that the programs and other transmissions aired on Madani channel may contain clips of various occasions and audible editing.
Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad Niyatul mu'mini khayrun min amalihi. मुसलमान की नियत उसके अमल से बेहतर है। अल्लाह ज़वजल की रज़ा पाने और सवाब कमाने की गर्ज से सिलसिला देखने से पहले अच्छी अच्छी नियतें फरमा लीजिए। अल्लाह की रज़ा की खातिर इल्म दीन हासिल करूंगा, सीखकर दूसरों तक नेकी की दावत पहुंचाऊंगा, खास खास बातें लिखूंगा, अव्वल ता आखिर देखूंगा। सल्लु अलल हबीब सल्लल्लाहु ताला अला मुहम्मद।
Take hold of your iman, don't give in to shaitan. Oh, you who believe, please give thanks to Allah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا نبي الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا نور الله. Dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani channel, we welcome you in another episode of the Salah of Attar, Hazrat Allama Maulana Muhammad Ilyas Attar Gabri. And today's topic we're going to be talking about the cures for anger. It is said in the Holy Prophet ﷺ, last night I witnessed a strange scene. I saw one person from my nation who was crossing the bridge of Sirat by dragging himself and crawling on his knees. Suddenly, the peace and blessing that he recited upon me had came and stood him upright on the bridge of Sirat to the extent that it made him walk and cross the bridge. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani channel, Sayyidina Wahab bin Munabbih rahmatullah alayh narrates, a pious man from the children of Israel went somewhere once, and on the way at once found a stone or plateau fell from the top close to his head. He started doing the zikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, and that stone, and moved away from it. A scary beast and lions started approaching in front of him, but he did not panic and continued with the zikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. When the pious man started his salah, a snake wrapped itself around his foot, crawled over his body so that it reached his head. And when the pious man intended to prostrate, do a sujood, the snake wrapped itself around his face. When he was about to bow down to his prostrate, the snake opened its mouth as it was about to bite his forehead. But the pious man would remove him successfully and prostrate. When he finished praying, Shaitan openly came out in front of him and said, I was doing all of that. You have a lot of courage. You've got a lot of courage. I am quite impressed by you. Therefore, I decided I won't even whisper my evil to you, but please be my friend. The pious man from the children of Israel refuted. He refused this attack of Shaitan and said, you try to scare me, but alhamdulillah azza wa jal, I didn't get scared. I will never be your friend. Shaitan said, okay, ask me what is the state of your family after you and what they will go through. This pious man said, I do not need to ask you. Shaitan said, well, at least ask me how I deceive people. The man said, yes, do tell me. Shaitan said, I put him in 3 traps. Number 1, love for money. Number 2, anger. Number 3, intoxication. Explaining all 3 of these, he said, when I cast a net of love or money on somebody, he gets so caught up in the web of wealth I keep reminding that you need more. You have very little. Like that, he gets engrossed in the love of money, and he even forgets to spend it on obligatory matters. And this way he gets caught up and trapped in the love of money and falls into the sin. When someone falls in a trap of anger, he says, this is the shaitan says, when somebody falls in a trap of anger, I play with him and toss him around in my group of shaitan, in the same way that children play with the ball. An angry person, regardless of his high status and knowledge he may have, I'm never upset with him. And no matter how much this person pious he may be, even with his prayers he may resurrect even the dead person. By the Islamic brothers, the shaitan says, I'm never upset with him. I always gotta hope that someday he will lose his control and burst in anger, something that will destroy his hereafter. As for the intoxication, a person who falls into the trap of drunk or the drug addicts, I take him by the ear towards evil, like the shepherd takes a sheep. In this way, Shaitan explained that a person who gets angry a lot, I play with him in the same way that a children play with the ball. That is why a person who gets angry, I should resort to patience so that he doesn't become a prisoner of Shaitan's waste of his good deeds. But Islamic brothers, in the conversation with his pious man, the Shaitan informed that he plays with the angry person in the same manner as children play with the ball. Shaitan should not be able to destroy your good deeds due to anger. Hujjat al-Islam, Imam Muhammad Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi says in his book of Kimya Sahadat, treat anger, and in this context, work hard, and forbearing and preserving is obligatory. Fard. Sayyidina Hasan al-Basri rahmatullahi alayhi says, oh man, you jump a lot in anger. What if that jump gets you into hell? The famous Mufti Ahmad Khan rahmatullahi alayhi says, anger is that instinct of oneself that compels him to avenge another person, to drive him away. A lot of bad deeds are created due to anger, my dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani channel, which is extremely destructive for the hereafter. And elaborating on some of them, such as envy, backbiting, tail-bearing, holding grudges, breaking ties, lying, insulting and disrespecting others, considering somebody's to be inferior, using profanity and foul languages, arrogance, violence, mocking others, losing compensation, selfishness, expressing the happiness to another person's loss, being ungrateful. But indeed, if somebody gets angry, he feels happy with somebody's loss. If the person is in distress, the person feels happy, and he forgets all about the favors that was done to him by that person who he's angry with. Some people hide their anger in their hearts and do not even let it go for years onwards. And due to the reason they do not participate in gatherings of joy and sadness, the anger of people who seem to be pious becomes apparent by the fact they no longer do any favors for the person that they are angry with like they did before. They don't even treat him compassionately. Even if the person gets angry, will organize a religious gathering, they do not attend there merely to satisfy their own egos. Some relatives are such that no matter how much a person treats them nicely, they never come to it. They never come on the right track. But we shouldn't lose hope. We shouldn't get upset. It is stated in Jami al-Saghir, reattach ties with the ones who break it. Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi states, meaning, you have come here to create bonds, not to break them. But Islamic brothers, anger can practically be treated by a person by making himself aware of how to control the anger and preserving it. Whenever somebody gets angry, he should ponder over the reward and try to control his anger. It is stated in Bukhari Sharif that one man presented himself to the beloved Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and requested, Ya Rasulullah azza wa jalla wa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, advise me, command me on something. Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, refrain from anger. That man asked the same question 3 times and repeatedly the answer was refrain from anger. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Sayyidina Abu Darda radiyallahu anhu states, I requested, Ya Rasulullah azza wa jalla sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, tell me of a deed that will take me into paradise. The beloved of Allah azza wa jalla sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied, avoid getting angry and heaven is for you. Subhanallah. It is stated in the Bukhari Sharif that a strong person, a strong and a mighty person, is not the one who can put his opponent down, but the one who can control his anger. It is stated in Kanzul Umar, Sultan al-Makkah al-Mukarramah, Tajdar Madinah al-Munawwarah, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam has stated, the meaning of which the one who controls his anger, even though he could have taken the revenge, on the day of judgment, Allah Azza wa Jal will sanctify his heart with Allah Azza wa Jal's divine pleasure. Subhanallah. Another cure for anger is that even when someone gets angry, he should remember and practice the ways of our pious slaves of Allah Azza wa Jal, what they used to do. My dear Islamic brothers, pay close, my dear Islamic brothers and viewers and mothers, pay close attention to how the pious people used to deal with the anger. In Kimya Sahad, Dawat-e-Islam, Imam Muhammad Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi states, a person talked in a battle about Ameer-e-Mu'mineen Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiyallahu anhu. He radiyallahu anhu bowed his head and said, do you want me to get angry so that shaitan will entangle me in arrogance of my power and I may exercise injustice upon you? And on the day of judgment you will seek recompensate from me? It just won't happen. He radiallahu anhu said that and remained silent. A person swore at Sayyidina Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu. He radiallahu anhu replied, if on the day of judgment my scale of sinful deeds is heavier than that of my good deeds, then I am worse of what you have called me. If it is lighter, then I don't care what you've just called me. But a person swore as Sayyidina Shaykh Rabi bin Qasim radiallahu anhu. Sayyidina Qasim radiallahu anhu said, Allah Azza wa Jalla heard what you said. There is a distance between heaven and hell. And I'm so busy trying to cover it. A person swore at Sayyidina Shaykh Rabi bin Qasim, he radiallahu anhu said, Allah Azza wa Jal has heard what you said. There is a distance between me and heaven, and I'm busy trying to cover it. If I'm successful in covering that distance, then I do not care what you said. If I'm unsuccessful, then your curse is enough for me. Allahu Akbar. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani channel, listen how Ameer-e-Mu'mineen says, Ameer-e-Mu'mineen Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he replied, a person swore at him once, he replied, I also have other faults like this which Allah Azza wa Jal has concealed from you. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. A person swore at Sayyidina Sahabi rahmatullah alayhi, he rahmatullah alayhi replied, if you have stated the truth, may Allah Azza wa Jal forgive me, and if you lied, may Allah Azza wa Jal forgive you. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. Look at this, my Islam, how the pious people used to control their anger, how they dealt with it. Someone told Sayyidina Fudayl bin Iyad radiallahu anhu that someone was talking bad about him. He radiallahu anhu replied, I swear by Allah Azza wa Jal, I will upset shaitan. Then he said, Dua, Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, whatever that person said regarding me, if I possess it, but first, then I'll be forgiven. And guide me. And if that person made false accusation against me, bless him with your forgiveness. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. Listen to this, my dear Islamic brothers and viewers on Madani channel. A person was openly, blatantly, speakingly bad about Sayyidina Abu Bakr bin Abdullah, Muslim rahmatullah alayh, and he rahmatullah alayh was not saying anything in relation to it. He rahmatullah was asked, why was you not saying anything? He rahmatullah alayh replied, I'm not aware of his bad deeds to speak ill of him. Why should I indulge in a major sin by slandering him? Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. The pious slaves of Allah Azza wa Jal were such excellent people. And with what excellency they used to control their anger, my dear Islamic brothers. The way they knew that getting angry and relating at their opponent for the sake of their egos is useless exercise. My dear Islamic brothers, the destruction caused by anger should also be known, because anger breeds violence, causes rifts between brothers, divorces between husband and wife, hatred amongst people, and death and destruction. If somebody gets angry and feels like violence and causing damage to property, he should tell himself, if I have some strength over others, Allah Azza wa Jal is infinitely stronger than that over me. If in a burst of anger I break somebody's heart and commit injustice against him, then on the day of judgment, how will I escape the wrath of Allah Azza wa Jal? Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. My dear Islamic brothers, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam once called a slave, but he was late. He arrived late. The Sultan of Medina sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a miswak in his hand, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if his revenge wasn't exacted on the day of judgment, I would have hit you with miswak. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani channel, our Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never took revenge for the sake of oneself. On the other hand, we have Muslims of today, where if a servant commits a minor error, a servant or an employee commits a minor error, people resort to cursing, swearing, and humiliating him, and even as much as physical abuse by hitting him. It is narrated in Sahih Muslim that Sayyidina Abu Mas'ud Ansari radiallahu anhu says, I was beating my slave and I heard a voice from behind him which said, Oh Abu Mas'ud, you should be aware that how much power you have over this slave. Allah Azza wa Jal has more power over than you. I looked back and looked. It was the beloved Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I asked, Ya Rasulullah Azza wa Jal sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is free from earning the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers on Madani channel, listen to what the Sultan of Medina sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said. If you did not do this, the fire of hell would have burnt you. Or said that the fire of hell would have touched you. My dear Islamic brothers, did you notice how much the blessed companion alayhim Ridwan had the love for Allah Azza wa Jal and His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Sayyidina Abu Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, as soon as realized that it was our Nabi Rahmat sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was displeasure at this act of beating the slave, not only stopped hitting the slave, but accepted his mistake and freed the slave. Now today, people scold and taunt, shout at him, etc. Those under without any valid Sharia reason, without realizing that Allah Azza wa Jal is stronger than them. He Azza wa Jal is watching our injustice, aggression. Indeed, salvation lies in letting go, being kind and forgiving and preserving with those who are under your authority. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, my Islamic brothers, here's an incident that may happen a lot of time with people who are married and they got situations like this in the house. A man's wife once put too much salt on his food and became very furious with anger, but he remained silent. He refrained from acting on it thinking to himself, I also commit a lot of mistakes. If I behave harshly with my wife today on her mistake, what if Allah Azza wa Jal is harsh with me on the day of judgment and my mistake therefore forgave his wife? After he died, somebody saw him in a dream and asked him, how did Allah Azza wa Jal treat you? He replied that he was about to be tortured due to his sin. But then he was told that he forgave a slave of Allah Azza wa Jal for adding extra salt in his food, and because of that, Allah Azza wa Jal forgave him. It is narrated in a hadith that a person who prevents his anger on the day of judgment, Allah Azza wa Jal will prevent punishing him. It is narrated in Tirmidhi Sharif that who stays silent, to stay silent, attains the salvation. It is said in Urdu that while the silent person beats 100, Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. Sayyidina Shaykh Sa'adi, Rahmatullah alayhi, narrates in Bustani Sa'adi, a pious man never spoke ill of his personal enemies. Whenever someone was mentioned, he used to say only something nice. After he died, somebody saw him in a dream and asked, what did Allah Azza wa Jal do with you? He, Rahmatullah alayhi, replied with a very sweet voice, in the world, I tried not to say anything wrong about anybody. The Mikhail, the angels of question in the grave, didn't ask me any tough questions. In this way, my affairs were quite good. But Islamic brothers, as you would have noticed and seen, being soft-hearted and preserving and forgiving earns great rewards from Allah Azza wa Jal. I wish we could learn to forgive those who insult us and cause harm to us. It is stated in Sahih Muslim that whatever has softness in it grants beauty, but whatever loses the softness becomes faulty. It is stated in Ihya al-Ulum that a man was supplicating to Allah Azza wa Jal, Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, I do not have any righteous to give you in charity. All I have is that any Muslim who insults me, I forgive him. The blessed of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received a revelation that this slave has been forgiven. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My dear Islamic brothers, listen to this, the reward of controlling the anger. It is narrated in Abu Dawood that one who controls his anger in spite of being able to act otherwise, on the day of judgment, he will be caught in front of Allah Azza wa Jalla, entire creation, and said to him that choose any heavenly woman that you like. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu states that a person who possesses these three qualities, on the day of judgment, Allah Azza wa Jal take account of his deeds in every ease manner and will let him enter heaven with his divine mercy. Statement number 1, give to the one who deprives of you. Meet the one who breaks ties with you. And number 3, forgive the one who oppresses you. If only we could develop the will of never getting angry for the sake of ourselves, like the way our pious predecessors rahmatullahi ta'ala used to do. No matter how much somebody used to be cruel to them, they only used to treat people kindly. And it is stated in Hayat al-Hadrat that Imam Ahmad Raza Khan rahmatullah alayh once received a mail which contained some letters which were filled with foul languages. His associates and files got very angry. I wanted to take them to court. Imam Ahmad Raza Khan rahmatullah alayh replied, first distribute land and wealth to those who have sent letters of praise, and then file a case against those who have spoke ill of me. Which basically means that when a people that reward you, those who praise them, why should you punish those who insult them? My dear Islamic brothers, our pious predecessor rahmatullah ta'ala used to preserve at the aggression of the aggressor and torture at the hands of the kuffar. This narration explains it beautifully. Sayyidina Malik bin Dinar rahmatullahi alayhi once took a house on rent just few doors away from to a Jew. The Jew, due to his biasness, used to throw garbage and impurities through the drainage he had fitted to the house of Sayyidina Malik bin Dinar rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. But he used to remain silent. One day the Jew asked, "Does my rubbish bother you?" Sayyidina Malik bin Dinar rahmatullahi alayhi replied, "Whatever filth comes, I sweep it up and I throw it away." The Jew asked, "Despite so much trouble that you don't get angry?" Sayyidina Malik bin Dinar rahmatullahi alayhi said, "I do, but I ignore it because Allah Azza wa Jalla states in the Holy Quran, in translation from Kanzul Iman, and whoever restrains anger and pardons men and virtuous people are dear to Allah Azza wa Jal." The Jew embraced Islam after listening to this. My dear Islam brothers and viewers of Madani channel, did you notice how the blessings of softness a Jew became a Muslim after experiencing the softness of Sayyidina Malik bin Dinar? One of the signs of the pious people is that in a state of anger, they do not even hurt ants, let alone hurt Muslims. Sayyidina Hassan Basri rahmatullahi alayhi states in the commentary of the verse, undoubtedly, translation Qadr Iman, undoubtedly the virtues are in bliss. In the commentary, it's mentioned that the pious are those who do not even hurt ants. It is wrongly said that anger is haram. Anger is an involuntary human emotion. It is natural for humans to get angry. This is not a human's mistake. However, misusing one's anger in a wrong way, sometimes anger is necessary. It is even necessary. For example, at a time of jihad, if a person doesn't get angry, then how will we be able to fight the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jalla? In any case, it is not possible for a human to get angry naturally, because however, what should be done is the impact should be turned into a different direction. For example, before being in another environment of Dawat-e-Islami, a person was in a bad company and used to get very angry a lot of time, curse people, swear a lot of people, and he would pick fights with people. After entering the Madani environment of Dawat-e-Islami and traveling on Madani Qaflas, a person still might retain the same instinct, but the direction of the anger of his anger will be changed. Now he feels angry at the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jal and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his blessed companion alayhim radwan. But for the sake of his ego, no matter how cruel somebody may be towards him, he remains patient. He gets angry at himself and says, "I won't let you commit sins." All in all, my dear Islamic brothers, the person retained his basic instinct of anger, but he has changed the direction of its impact. It is stated in a hadith that a person who controls his anger despite being capable of acting on it, Allah Azza wa Jalla will fill his heart with tranquility and faith. Meaning, if somebody causes you harm and you get angry and you would have retaliated, but just for the sake of earning Allah Azza wa Jalla's pleasure, you control your anger, and Allah Azza wa Jalla grants you peace in your heart, mind, and fill your heart with the light of faith. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, if you got a problem of the anger, in how to remove that problem, here's some incantations you can recite in how to remove it. Stating number 1, the one who sins due to anger, read Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim 21 times after every fourth prayer and blow upon himself. At meal times, he should read it 3 times each and blow upon the food as well as the drink. Number 2, anytime while walking, during working, etc., one may utter Ya Allahu Ya Rahmanu Ya Rahimu. And number 3, casualty at any time utter Ya Arhamar Rahimin. But Islamic brothers, Also mentioning 13 cures on how to get rid of the anger should one encounters it. When you get angry, resort to one or as many required cures from the amongst, and some of them are as: number 1, read ta'awuz, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. And number 2, wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Number 3, or stay silent. Number 4, make wudu. Number 5, sniff water in your nostrils all the way, just the way you do in wudu. Number 6, if you're standing, sit down. If you're seated, lie down on the ground and hug the ground. Number 8, put your cheek on the ground if you have wudu, perform sajda, so that you realize that you're made of clay, and getting angry to slave of Allah Azza wa Jal does not benefit you. Number 9, move away from the person that's getting you angry. Number 10, think of that if you get angry, the other person would also get angry and then retaliate, and one should never assume that the enemy is weak. Number 11, if you spoke harshly to somebody today in a state of anger, apologize to them in front of the other. If somebody is cruel towards you or commits a mistake and you get angry at him for the sake of your ego, then forgive that person. It means, even if it means earning reward. So think that yourself, when I get angry, why shouldn't I become worthy of earning reward? And what a great reward it is, because it is stated in the hadith, an announcement will be made on the day of judgment. Those whose rewards are with Allah Azza wa Jal, stand up and enter heaven. It will be asked so that his reward is for. It will be said, for those who used to forgive, thousands of people will stand up and enter heaven without gaining accountability. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Take hold of your iman, don't give in to shaitan. Oh, you who believe, please give thanks to Allah. Sallu ala al-Habib.
Please send us your views and ideas regarding the program which you have just viewed to the following email address: feedback@madanichannel.tv, or text to the following numbers: 0301261276 and 0312492139.
Sallu ala al-Habib.